Well, just picked up another free moped here, and this one is extremely rare in the US. I've never worked on this brand or bought this brand before. This one is a Batavus Regency 49cc, and the history on this one's pretty cool. So these were actually produced in the Netherlands, and the company was founded in 1904. And they originally were producing clocks, watches, and sewing machines back in the day. And then they started to expand to bicycles in 1906. Then in 1948, they produced their first moped. And then the US was booming with mopeds, and then they started selling them to the US in 1976 to 1983. And this is the 1980 model. So I don't think many of them were sold in the US, and not many of them survived. You know, you don't see these around very often. So a seller actually reached out to me from my YouTube channel and said he bought this thing from a yard sale for 50 bucks, and his plan was to get this thing running, but it's been sitting in his garage for the last 4 years. And he said he'll probably never get around to it and doesn't really have the skills to get it running. So he said if I could get this thing running, I can keep it. He just wants to see it run on the channel. So that's kind of how we got this thing for free. So looking over this thing, it looks like it's missing the side cover here, but it looks like it has the original carb, the original belt. It does have the pedals to start this thing, and it looks like it does have the clutch mechanism. So when you pull on the lever here, you can pedal it and start it. It does have the spark plug, the coil, everything to produce spark. So it's mostly complete, but just missing a couple parts. And the crazy part is this thing only has 842 miles. So not many at all. And the speedo goes up to 40 miles an hour, so this thing might be pretty quick. All the controls are on it. You've got the clutch right here to start it. I believe these are the lights. You can see right there, it says lights on it, on, off. And then I'm guessing this is like a kill switch. Then you've got your brake here. And then there was supposed to be a choke lever here. I'm guessing this is the choke lever that's broken off. But it has the original headlight on it, all the original fenders. It's got the horn down here. Here's the tag. And you can see it says 1980 on here somewhere. And then you can see Made in Holland right there on the sticker. And the seat's actually in pretty good shape too. A couple small rips in it, but foam is still soft. You can see the name Batavus on it. Tail lights on it, rack is on it, and then the side plastic over here is on it. So mostly complete. It also looks like both tires are pretty flat and dry rotted. So rear tire I think is off the bead, might need a new tube. But other than that, it's not too bad. I'm hoping it's complete enough to where we can get this up, running, and driving by the end of the video. Then we can keep this thing for free. So it's definitely going to be a challenge today. I have no idea when this thing last ran, and I've never worked on one before, so it should be pretty fun. So let's get this thing off the trailer and we'll start digging into it. Alright, we'll walk around to this thing. Pretty unique looking moped. Pretty cool pipe on there. I think the chrome might clean up. Yeah, the chrome doesn't look too bad. Covered in a layer of dust. Chains on there too. So if we can get this running, we might be able to drive this thing today. Underneath the seat, I'm guessing there's an oil tank and possibly a battery. It looks like, oh, maybe it's just mixed gas. I'll have to look inside the tank. But yeah, these were marketed to the US, and I guess it said these things went about 150 miles per gallon is what they could get out of it. So pretty cool. But yeah, let's get this thing in the garage and we'll start digging into it. Really cool piece of history. Well, we got this thing in the garage. Let's start going through the whole thing. So this thing is a little two-stroke, but usually there's some oil for the transmission somewhere. So I'm looking for an oil drain plug here. I see something leaking here. That looks like oil leaking. But where is that coming from? I don't see a drain or a plug for oil. It should be right out in the open, you would think. You guys see it? I'm not seeing it. Maybe we'll find it once we start taking off some of the plastics. Let's take a peek underneath this cover, see if it's underneath there. Here somewhere. We can get this cover off. Looks like you've got the flywheel with the points in here. Cool. Your sprocket here. So that's what the cover looks like. I'm not seeing any fill plug anywhere. Oh, here's a drain. Right down here is a drain. Is that the fill and the drain for the oil? See, right here. Alright, so I just looked it up. This is in fact the check bolt and the fill plug. So it acts as one unit. So oil should pour out of here if it's filled up correctly. And it's just pouring out, you can see. So it's filled up to the right level. It looks pretty clear too. Doesn't look too bad. So there is oil in the transmission. And you guys saw the drain plug underneath it. It's like directly right underneath here. So there is oil in it. So I'm guessing the really long seat like this is so you could have a passenger. And it looks like there's actually buddy pegs down here as well. So you can ride with two people. Pretty cool. To open the seat, you pull these two tabs here. Some paint flaking off the seat. But there's some stuff in the seat here. Let's see what we got. So, oh, a toolkit? I'm guessing not in the original bag. Came in. Let's see what's in here. Does it actually say Batavus on it? Nope, Yamaha. So they had a little toolkit in here. Extra spark plug. That'd be cool if it was the original toolkit. That'd be really cool. That looks like some extra two-stroke engine oil to mix with the gas. But these things are supposed to get 150 miles per gallon, so you're most likely not going to go 150 miles on this machine. But yeah, cool little compartment in the seat here. That's really neat. Let's take a peek in the gas tank. Gas cap looks pretty decent. A little rust on the top. Nothing too crazy. I hope this isn't all rusted out. There's absolutely zero gas in there. It looks really clean. Check this out. Hopefully you guys can see down in there. It is almost perfect in there. No rust at all. That's pretty darn good. Wow, so gas tank looks really good. Alright, so we checked underneath the seat, underneath the side cover. I'm not seeing any spot for where a battery would go. So I'm guessing the lights and everything is powered by that magneto, and it doesn't require a battery. I'm guessing it's a 6-volt system as well. So what we're going to do is jump right to the spark plug, take that out, and we'll see what that looks like. See if we have compression, see if we have spark. Probably blew up the cylinder. Yeah, that looks like an old plug in there. Bosch plug, interesting. Doesn't look too bad. Looks like it was running pretty good. Nice chocolatey brown color on the plug. Alright, let's take a look down the cylinder first before we spray some lubrication. I want to check out the cylinder and the piston, see what that looks like before we go any further. Alright, we've got our little camera here. Let's see what's going on inside the cylinder here. There we go. A little better picture. Well, the piston's in there. That's a good sign. A couple light scratches, it looks like, on the cylinder wall. Nothing too crazy. Piston's not super carboned up. Yeah, no dings on the piston. Alright, that looks pretty darn good. Switch our menu to the cylinder wall. Take a closer look at that. You can see cross hatches on there. Look at that. That is great. So cylinder and piston both check out. I don't think there's anything wrong with those. Let's get some lubrication down there. Lube that up down there. Now I think to turn over the engine, you need to pedal it. So let's just see what happens when you pedal it here. Is that going up? Yep, there's compression there. So it's turning over. I thought it was only supposed to turn over with the clutch held in though, like that. It seems like it might be stuck because it's turning over no matter what. So it does sound pretty good though, at least it turns over. So what we're gonna do is check for spark first. I'm not sure which way on and off is on this thing. Oh, here we go. It's just covered in dirt. Come up here to the kill switch. So if you look really closely, it's really faded. You can see it says engine stop, off, and run. Let's get the plug in and see what we get. We might have to clean up the points too. We'll see. Let's take a look at the boot too. Boot looks pretty darn good. Wires exposed. We're still going to cut that back just a little bit just to make sure it's good. A hair here. There we go. That looks good. Get this twisted up here. There's no way this thing has spark. Alright. Get our Bosch plug-in. Let's see what we get. See if we can kick it over fast enough here. Here we go. Yeah, it doesn't look like any spark. Alright. Oh, there we go. That was spark. Just had to go a little faster with it. Oh yeah, good spark. Good blue spark. Look at that. Really good. Just have to kick it really fast. If you kick it like that, you won't get spark. So when we go to start this thing up for the first time, we have to really kick it. So it's got a, yeah. There we go. That looks pretty good. Let's turn off the lights and take a look. I thought for sure it was no spark. Yeah, that's pretty blue. Alright, spark looks amazing. Pretty happy with that. Let's go down to the points, take a look at those, see how those work. Alright, taking a look at the flywheel here. So it's held on by a nut, looks like a little washer behind there. The points are right here. And I just want to see what the points gap is at. Looks like maybe 12 thousandths of an inch, so that's probably pretty good. We'll quick measure it just to make sure. Here's 12 thousandths. Yeah, that fits in. So we're right around 12 thousandths, 11 thousandths of an inch. We're gonna quick spray that off with some contact cleaner. And then what we're going to do is take our screwdriver and just file that off just a hair, just to make sure there's no grime on there. And then make sure we still have spark. But spark looked really good, so I'm guessing those points are fine. You've got the coil for the light. Looks like a condenser right here. Yeah, if we have to pop up the flywheel, we can, so not a big deal. All right, but we do have spark, so we can move on and test compression. We're hoping for over 100 PSI. All right, get our compression tester in here. And I wouldn't be turning it over if I didn't check the air filter. I think the air filter was supposed to be right here. And it looks like it's missing with that side cover. So, all right, doing the throttle, actually it's not stuck. You can see the slide moving up and down in here. So we can test it with the throttle open. 100 PSI. Let's see. Throttle open. It's going up. Looks like you have to hold the clutch in now. Whoa, did it lock up on me? Nope. Uh-oh. I think the clutch stopped working. Where are we at? Oh, well over 100. We're at 130 PSI. That's pretty darn good. Wow. Okay. So that gives us some hope. 130 PSI for a 49cc. This thing should rip pretty good. So compression checks out, spark checks out. Let's work our way to the carb and see if it was getting any fuel. So the carb is right in here. Looks like two lines coming in through the throttle cable. Gotta figure out how to get that carb off. All right, so it looks like the carb is held on by this bolt going through. You can see the nut on the other side. And it looks like maybe right here as well. There's a nut on there. So let's try loosening this up and see what happens. Looks like a 10mm bolt. Let's see. Is it turning? Yep. Coming off. That's what it looks like holding that carb on. Let's see. That doesn't move at all. Huh. And you've got the gas line connected here. Let's see if we loosen up that nut there. We might have to take the clutch off of here. Alright, unfortunately it looks like to get the carb off we have to take off the clutch piece here. So the belt has to come off, I believe the clutch has to come off, and this piece has to come off as well with a 10mm. Looks like there's a spring underneath there holding that on. So we can get that out of the way. Anything behind there? Nope. So the plate goes on like that. The little hump piece faces out. Alright, then there's a circlip in there we can get out. Is this attached right directly to the clutch? Crank this off of here. Looks like there's a lock washer, a normal washer on there. I'm wondering if we can just slide off this belt. Ooh, that's pretty darn tight. And does that pop off of there? I don't know. Alright, let's see if we can get the circlip off of here. There we go. I think there's a little washer. Couple washers. And just like that. There we go. Belt's off. Oh, that can pull right out. Oh, perfect. So there's a woodruff key on there. Alright, now we can get the carb off, I think. The hard part is going to be getting this back on. Let's see. Okay. So that just basically lines up with those clutch plates there. So now we can get to the nut here. I believe that's holding on the carb. Alright, well that was a little bit of a process. Hopefully we can get that belt back on. Oh yeah, carb's coming off now. Alright, let's see if we can pull that off. Alright, gas line is on there pretty tight. Alright, slide coming out. And your choke. Now we should be able to get the gas line off of here. Don't want to break that nipple off. There we go. That's the little carb. And then there's part of the carb body still on here. Looks like maybe like a little pump piece or a spacer. I'm not even going to take that gasket off, but that goes that way, like that, and it can only fit in there like that, so that goes on, just like that. Alright, so that piece goes on first, and there's another piece back there. So we're just going to leave all that together for now. And then we'll start tearing into the carb here. Doesn't look too complicated. Alright, so we're going to start by taking off, I guess you have to take off the, I believe that's the idle screw right there. Let's take that off first. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 turns out. just so we know where to adjust the idle for reference. All right, and then the bowl can come off. Just 2 little screws here. Ooh, looks pretty darn clean. So fuel comes in through here, and this little needle here shuts off the fuel when that rises. So you can see at the pointy end, and the float goes down, and this one shuts off the gas flow. So float looks good, that's in one piece. Bowl has some corrosion in there happening, old gas. So you have to let that soak for a little bit. And then we've got, I'm guessing, a main jet, which is right here. Open that up. Oh yeah. So there's a little jet in there. You need to blow through that. And then we have to make sure that the passageway there is clear. And it goes into this jet here. Yep, I can see it in there. Hopefully you guys can see it. We'll fill this up all the way. And you should be able to see the level filling up in there as well. You guys can see it or not. Fill it up a little bit more. Hopefully you guys can see the bubbles forming in there. So that passageway is clear. So what we're going to do is let this soak in the ultrasonic cleaner for maybe 30 minutes. Get all those passageways cleared, blow it out with compressed air, and then we'll clean up the jets. So here's one jet. Blow through that quick. See if those are clear. Yep, they're pretty clear. And then obviously the inlet for the gas to go through. All right, that's clear too. So carb actually looked pretty darn good. Well, there's a couple passageways here as well. We'll quick see if those were clear. I think those are a little bit clogged up. I think the ultrasonic cleaner can get in there and clean those. So carb body going in here. Jets. Alright, carb is out of the ultrasonic cleaner, looking good. So we went ahead and poked through all these holes with a piece of wire. This one goes through to here. So there's a little choke plunger that will allow that to open up. And then this one goes through to down here, so it can get gas from the tube here. So it must lift gas up through here, and then goes through there and allows fuel to flow. And then we blew through the jet here, that's all clear. So we can get everything reinstalled here and back onto the machine. All right, before we get the carb back on, let's put a little mix down the tank and see if that petcock's working. Alright, we're in the off position now. Let's go to reserve. Oh yeah, gas is flowing. I cannot believe that petcock works. That's awesome. So that is working great. Is it leaking from something? leaking from somewhere. Alright, the petcock's leaking from here, so I'm guessing the little rubber piece in there is broken. Let's see if we can fix it with an O-ring gasket. You just don't want that leaking all over the place. If I can even get this off, jeez. There we go. It's coming. A little spring in there. That's what that looks like. So there's a seal here. So I think what we can do, maybe put a little O-ring in there to seal that off. All right, so this is what we came up with. We put a new O-ring in here. We've got another shut-off valve here, because once you put the O-ring in there, you can't turn it on or off. It just automatically is on. And then we've got a filter down here as well, going to the carb. Gas line going onto here. Like that. This piece goes on like this. Just like that. And then our nut can go on here. Hold that in place. And our other one goes all the way through. That with the nut on the other side. And we can get our slide on as well. So the cutout notch part is facing out towards the air filter area. This goes on just like this. Get that all bolted back up. All right, now we're gonna try to put the clutch cover back on and the belt back on. So what we're gonna do is line up this one first with the woodruff key. I'm gonna try to get these on at the same time. It's a little tricky. That's how you stretch the belt. So try to get that one on first. There we go. Alright, we're going to stretch that and try to get that on the woodruff key. This is not easy to do. A little bit here, a little bit there. Just trying to pry that a little bit. Some slack in that belt. The clutch is basically back on here. We've got washer, lock washer nut. For this one, you're gonna have your C-clip and your two washers for this one. That holds that one in place. Make sure that's nice and tight in there. Oop. And we're going to want that belt a little further over there. All right, belt is back on. Everything is spinning smoothly here. Carb is back on. Fuel's not leaking. We can get our little arm lever back on here. Get that tightened down. Let's see how that's working. Alright, that's working. We might have to adjust that as we go, but so far that's working out good. Alright, everything is back together. Alright, carb's back on, clutch, belt are back on. Let's get our plug back in here. So we're getting pretty close here. Well, we've got great spark, great compression at 130. We got the carb cleaned out, all the jets sprayed out. So carb looks like that's gonna be working. We got fuel going to the carb, petcock fix, and the clutch back on, along with the belt. So we are going to have to manually pull in the lever for the choke to get this thing to run. But other than that, it should fire up. I don't see a reason why I shouldn't. We should be fine. I guess we're gonna find out right now. All right, let's see what happens. We're gonna choke it, kick it over a couple times, and hopefully it fires up. All right, the carb slide got stuck. I had to sand that down quite a bit. Let's try this again. A little starting fluid in there. Let's see what happens. All right, so it's not starting with the drill either. All right, we put some starting fluid down the carb, still not starting. We're gonna try some down the cylinder and then turn it over with the drill, just because it seems like that clutch is not grabbing right when I pull in the lever. For some reason, it's not wanting to go at all. See if we still have spark here. No spark. Huh. Well, that would be the problem. All right, we've got spark back, cleaned off the points again. Let's see what we get now. Ooh, almost. She runs. Not very well. That was full throttle. It's barely going. So we're gonna work on it for a little bit, see if we can get this thing to rev out completely. It's getting way too much fuel. You can see it dripping on the ground. So I think the carb is overflowing. Something's going on with that carb. You can see it took out the main jet and fuel is all the way up here. So that really doesn't make sense. Fuel should only be up to about here. That's all the way up to there. So I think it's flooding out the carb and causing issues. So we're going to take off the cap for the float there and see if that float is shutting off the fuel. It is. See how much fuel is in there. Of course the throttle is holding us back here. Let's get this off. Well, there's not that much fuel in it. Alright, just looked up a carb diagram and they had the float going in the other way. So the needle piece, or the pointy part, goes up, which I should have known. So I think we weren't blocking off the gas flow. So let's try it again. We'll see if that fixes our problem. Because when we took this apart, the pointy part was down, so I wonder if that was the whole problem. Why the guy couldn't get this thing to run. Because if I'm not holding this thing wide open, it will not start up. So it's just running really, really rich. So maybe he attempted to, clean up the carb, put it back together, and he put that needle in wrong. And I assumed it was never taken apart, so I put the needle in exactly where it was. It turns out he was wrong. All right, now float is in the correct way. Let's see what happens now. Here we go. Huh, I thought for sure that would be the fix. Running rich still. You can see all the fuel leaking here. Like crazy. Alright, so we're doing a little test here. And I took the top where the needle sits into the seat here, and I don't think that's shutting off at all. And when I tested it, I put this on the line here, and then what I did was turn it on with the float in here pressed down, and check it out. It should be shutting that off right now. You can see it's dripping. so it's not turning off that gas. I think that's why they had it going the other way. So if you put it this way, let's see if it shuts off the gas. It probably doesn't. It was probably getting a little bit less gas. Actually, I think it does shut off the gas that way. It's still leaking a little bit. Definitely shuts it off better that way, but that's not the way it's supposed to go. So I think that seat is leaky. Yeah, that's why they had it the other way, because it leaks a lot less. So when you have it this way, it leaks way less, but still leaks. I'm guessing it's all wallowed out in there. Oh yeah. It appears to be unevenly worn in there. That's not good. So the seat looks like it's damaged. I think the seat's damaged, and that's why it's shutting it off this way, because it's a bigger end there. Alright, remember how the needle was kind of hitting the surface of the seat there? So what I did was take the grinder and just grind down a little bit of that seat that was sticking up there. And now, see how it doesn't hit the float? Now if we put pressure on that, turn this thing on, let's see if it turns it off now. No more leaking. Alright, that's turning it off. So, that might work. Alright, let's turn the fuel on, try this again. Hopefully it doesn't leak. Here we go, fuel is on. Still boggy. Still really boggy. It's not leaking anymore though. So it should not be that boggy. I would expect it to be a little bit boggy. Oh, it's still leaking. There's some gas coming out of there. Shoot, if we take off the pipe, if it gets any better. That's pretty hot. couple whacks with the hammer, she's off. Let's see if it runs a little bit better now. All right, go. Nope. Wasn't the pipe. It's gotta be that carb. It's that float for sure. It's gotta be causing issues. All right, I did a little research on this carb, and a lot of people have issues with it. I guess they're like extremely finicky carbs. And I was kind of looking at what could be the problem, and somebody mentioned that there's 2 O-rings on the choke mechanism. We only had the one, and these are supposed to seal off the passageway inside the choke mechanism. And ours looks like it's really brittle, and we only have one of them, so we need 2 of them. Otherwise, I think it can flood out the engine that way. So I'm looking down this passageway here for the choke, and there's actually gas pooling in there, like a lot of gas pooling. So I wonder if that O-ring wasn't sealing on the choke mechanism and was allowing fuel in when it shouldn't be. So what we're going to do is take the O-ring off here and replace them with new ones. Oh man, that's really hardened up. Yeah, that wasn't doing anything. That could definitely be the problem. All right, this is coming off here. Look at this. That was bad. Huh. Look at that. Just breaking apart in my hand. Yeah, that was a little hardened up. So we are going to replace the O-rings, and hopefully that was the problem. That would be great. Needs to be the exact size here. We need 2 of them. That looks pretty darn close to the right size. All right, we got the new O-rings installed here. Let's see what the heck happens. Idling, that was full throttle. Still doing the same thing. You can see it leaking gas out of here. So it's still rich. You can see out of the pipe, leaking gas there, and there. So it is extremely rich still. So something's going on with the carb. It's not the O-rings and the choke. This thing's still getting way too much fuel. You can see it leaking all over the floor here. So I'm guessing that carb is somehow letting fuel in to the engine and flooding it out still. So I looked online, and everybody's saying these carbs are so finicky. These NCAR, I think that's how you pronounce them. They say that the float is super finicky. If that needle is not perfect on the tip of that float, it will not seal, which we saw was the case. It looked like maybe somebody had cleaned out the carb and then flipped that around. So then the seat in there is all rounded and walled out, and it's not sealing properly. So I think it's leaking just a little bit, which would be enough to flood it out eventually. And then they said that the O-rings on the choke are super finicky. Those have to be perfect. They have to be seating perfectly so no gas can come by. So I'm guessing we're gonna need to get a new carb for it. And a lot of guys just put an aftermarket carb on with a different intake, and it works like that. And then they don't have to mess around with this carb, because I guess this one's just super finicky and really hard to tune. So what we're gonna do is go search on eBay, try to find a carb for it. And I think next video we're gonna swap it in, and hopefully that will take care of our issue. Because we saw that when you turn the fuel off and let it run out of fuel, it actually revs out and sounds really good. So we're just getting too much fuel, and the only way to get too much fuel is from the carb leaking into the engine. So it's gotta be that carb. So I was hoping to get this one running and driving today, but unfortunately it was a little bit more finicky than I would have liked. So we did get it running, it just does not run right. It just bogs really badly. So I think once we get that carb, throw it on there, this thing will run and ride, and we'll be getting this machine for free. So hopefully you guys enjoyed picking up this 1980 Batavus Regency 49cc moped for free, diagnosing it, going through it, doing the first start, and hopefully the first ride next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. Stay tuned for next one, and until next time, we are out.